No one wants to date me. The girl said it quietly, staring at the untouched glass of water between them. The cafe was noisy, full of laughter and clinking cups, but at that table, time seemed to freeze. The single dad across from her slowly put down his phone. His eyes softened, not with pity, but recognition. What he did next wasn't romantic. It wasn't dramatic, but it shattered everything she believed about herself, and changed both of their lives forever. Most people would have walked away. He didn't, and that decision rewrote two broken stories into one unforgettable beginning. Quote, Maya had stopped believing in miracles long before that blind date. At 26, she had already mastered the art of pretending she was fine. Fine with being overlooked. Fine with being the nice girl who was never chosen. Fine with watching her friends post engagement photos while she practiced smiling in the mirror so no one would ask questions. The truth lived quietly inside her. She felt invisible. Her aunt had insisted on the blind date. Just coffee, she'd said. What's the worst that can happen? So Maya sat there, hands folded tightly in her lap, across from a man who looked older than she expected. Early 40s, tired eyes, faint lines on his face that suggested life had not been gentle with him either. He wore a simple shirt, slightly wrinkled, and checked his phone more than he should have. She assumed the same thing she always did. He'll realize I'm not worth the effort. The conversation limped along. Work, weather, traffic. Small talk that felt like borrowed words. Then there was silence. Heavy, uncomfortable. And that's when it slipped out. No one wants to date me. She hadn't planned to say it. The words escaped like a confession she'd been holding in too long. Her voice cracked, and she hated herself instantly for it. She waited for the familiar reactions. Awkward laughter. Forced reassurance. An excuse to leave. Instead, the man, Daniel, looked at her properly for the first time. Not at her clothes. Not past her. At her. He didn't rush to contradict her. He didn't say, "That's not true," the way people did when they didn't really listen. He simply asked, "Who made you believe that?" The question landed hard. Maya swallowed. "Everyone," she said honestly. "Or no one. I don't know. I'm just always the one people pass by." Daniel nodded slowly, as if she'd just spoken a language he understood fluently. "You know," he said, "I used to think the same thing about myself." That surprised her. He told her about his life, not all at once, not dramatically. Just pieces. A marriage that ended quietly. A daughter he raised alone. Nights spent packing lunches and mornings rushing to school before work. How dating became impossible when your world revolved around a small human who needed you more than anyone else. After a while, he said, "You stop feeling unwanted. You start feeling unchosen." The word pierced her. Unchosen. Maya felt tears burning her eyes, and she looked away, embarrassed. She didn't want to cry in front of a stranger. But Daniel didn't look uncomfortable. He looked present. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Not a polite smile. Not a sad one. A gentle, warm smile that carried understanding instead of judgment. "You're not unwanted," he said quietly. "You're just not seen yet." The cafe noise rushed back into her ears. For the first time that evening, Maya took a deep breath. But life had taught her not to trust moments like this. Hope had a way of hurting more than loneliness. She glanced at the clock, already preparing herself for the goodbye. She didn't know that this was only the beginning. Maya thought the night would end with polite goodbyes. She was wrong, because instead of standing up to leave, the single dad reached into his pocket, took out his phone, and said something that stopped her heart. "Before this ends, there's something I want you to see." What followed wasn't a love confession. It wasn't a promise. It was a truth so raw and unexpected that it changed the way she saw herself forever. Daniel turned his phone toward her. On the screen was a photo of a little girl, maybe 7 years old, missing a front tooth, smiling so wide it looked like she trusted the entire world. "This is Emma," he said. "My daughter." Maya smiled instinctively. "She's beautiful." "She is," he said softly. "And she taught me something I forgot about myself." He told her how Emma once came home from school crying because no one picked her for a group project. How she'd asked him, through tears, "Daddy, what's wrong with me?" His voice trembled as he repeated it. "I realized," Daniel said, "that if I told her she wasn't chosen because she wasn't good enough, I'd destroy her. So I told her the truth. That sometimes the world is blind. And being chosen isn't proof of worth." He looked at Maya then. "I see that same question in your eyes." Something inside her broke open. All those years of rejection. All the silent self-blame. All the times she thought love was a reward she hadn't earned. Daniel wasn't trying to save her. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was simply choosing to see her. I don't know where this goes, he said honestly. But I know this, I don't walk away from people who are brave enough to be real. For the first time, Maya didn't feel like she had to perform. She didn't need to be charming or perfect. She just needed to exist. They talked until the cafe lights dimmed. About fears. About healing. About how loneliness can live even in crowded rooms. When they finally stood outside, the night air cool against their skin, Maya expected the familiar ache of disappointment. Instead, Daniel said, "Would you like to try again? Not as a date, just as two people who don't feel invisible together." She nodded, tears falling freely now. Months passed, slowly, carefully. She met Emma, learned how to braid hair, learned how love could be quiet and steady instead of loud and consuming. Daniel learned how to let someone in again, how to stop apologizing for the space his life required. They didn't fix each other. They chose each other. And one evening, as Maya watched Emma fall asleep between storybook pages, she realized something profound. She wasn't unwanted. She never had been. She was simply waiting for someone who knew how to see.